A gutsy performance from Saracens puts Toulouse in a very unfamiliar position. My name's Mark, let's talk rugby. Great performance from Saracens in this one. And Toulouse in a position they're not very often in, especially since, we've gone to this more modern format with around a 16, where they're going to go in now to the final round of games, not actually qualified for the knockout stages. Now, with a home game, you would expect that they will qualify, but they're probably going to be away in that round of 16. And they're definitely going to be one of the teams to avoid, I think, if that is the case. But Toulouse actually start well. They got most of the ball in the opening minutes, and Willis breaks up the middle to just outside the 22. Saracens in fringe, and then Toulouse kick up the line into the 22. Saracens take the man in the air in the line out. Another penalty to Toulouse. Kinghorn to the corner. Saracens disrupt the line out and hack the ball clear. Good work from Itoje there in disrupting that line out. But pressure coming on from Toulouse. Then we have a loose kick. Loose ball. He's kicked on by Gonzalez. Ramos collects it and then just throws it straight into touch. Line out in a decent position for Saracens. But they actually concede a penalty because somebody come in and kind of doing a bit of sledging or whatever. Ramos gives them a push and they give away a penalty. Just stupid. The best way to punish stuff like that is to maintain your position and then make something out of it, not doing stuff like that. And referees are I've noticed actually they've been hot on that this weekend. Next then, Toulouse working into 22. Dupont keeping the pace up as they're stretching that Saracens defence. They go back inside. Chocobares then puts Kinghorn over the score, converted for 7 points to 0. And at that stage, Toulouse are definitely looking the better side. Then they go up the line from a scrum penalty. They move off the top of the line out. There's a chip through, kind of bobbles about maybe 10 metres out. Ramos stabs it on, and who is it? Dalib, I think, gets the ball, but Hartley then gets over him and wins a penalty for Saracens, and that was 5 metres from his own line, so a really good intervention there. McFarlane then, he charges a Dupont kick down, and that's in the 22, and then he actually beats him to the loose ball as well. And they're maybe about 10 metres out here from the Toulouse line. Saracens go through the phases and they suck in the defence close to the post before going wide to Segon, who goes over. And in the build-up to that as well, there's kind of a nice cameo with the two Willis brothers who are, one playing for each side. They clash close to the line, resulting in a penalty advantage to Saracens. So they didn't get in. They could have gone back for the penalty, but they didn't need to do that. Conversion missed, though, 7 points to 5. Saracens then break out of their own 23 through Burke, and he weaves up to halfway, kicks in behind, and then Lazowski just burns the cover for pace, but then he's diving on the ball and he knocks it on. You're thinking that should have been the simple part for him, but should have been a try there and a chance missed. Hands in the ruck from Toulouse, and Saracens kick up the line into the 22. They go through the phases after the maul stalls. Lazowski sells a dummy and then puts Segun over for a second. This one is converted for 12 points to 7. Saracens then work it up the line off the back of a scrum out wide into 22. Tom Willis drives over from close range. Conversion from out wide missed. 17 points to 7 was the halftime score. Into the second half then, and the first half, Sarries were playing with a really strong wind at the back, and now we've turned around. It's in Toulouse's favour. We have a line out in their own 22 from Sarries, isn't straight, and we have a scrum in a good position for Toulouse. They win a penalty at the scrum and they kick to the corner. Penalty advantage then, as I told you, takes the man in the air. They move it. Kinghorn with a skip pass out to Labelle, who steps and then beats another player to go over. Converted for 17 points to 14. Kinghorn then kicks a 50-22. One of the Sarries players, though, just lashes the ball into the crowd and gets penalised. So Toulouse then have a penalty on the back of what would have been a 50-22. They kick to the corner, and we have strong carries that take them up pretty close to the line, but then Tom Willis gets over it for a penalty, and just good last-ditch defence there from Sarries, but Toulouse really were making yards when they were trucking it up. Sarries then kick a penalty to 10 metres out, and Earl comes off the ball. Jack Willis gets over it and wins a penalty for Toulouse. The penalty then is marched forward 10 metres because there's a bit of chat back to the referee from Itoje. Toulouse, after that, they win another penalty, and Kinghorn is going for the corner from his own half, but with that very strong wind, he overcooks it, and it's a scrum back, and that was a real let-off for Sarries at that point. Kinghorn then seatbelt tackle, and Owen Farrell on now from the bench makes it 20 points to 14 from the tee. Toulouse work it into the 22. Sarries, though, force a knock-on from Chocobares, and then Daly boots it clear. And, pressure is coming on Sarries, but Toulouse errors are kind of, acting almost as like a pressure valve, relieving that pressure for Sarries. Then Toulouse moved the ball from a line out into 22, but again, they spill the ball and Sarries can clear. And yeah, if they had a little bit more accuracy, I think at that point, they could have built that pressure and possibly gotten over for a score. Then Toulouse searching for that lead score, but now it's, pressure from the Sarries defence causes Ramos to knock on in the middle of the field. So Sarries then win a scrum penalty, from that resulting scrum, and they go up the line. They're in the 22 with 2 minutes left on the clock, and they're going through the phases. Initially, it looks like the plan was, let's have one last go to try and get a try bonus point because they're on 3 tries at this stage. But there's aggressive defence from Toulouse, and it's just edging them backwards, and they drive them out of the 22. So because Sarries are going nowhere, clock is in the red, they get it out and they get it off the field for the win. Full time, 20 points to 14. Okay, so we're going to have a look at the stats, and then we'll have a chat about each of the teams. So let me pull the stats up here on the official website. So first up, tries, 3 tries to 2 in favour of Sarries. And then on attack, 323 metres to 239 metres made. So, and that's from 109 carries from Sarries. So around about 3 metres per carry, and 120 for Toulouse. So that's around about 2 metres per carry for them. So you can see more impact in the carry on the Sarries side of things. Clean breaks then 4 each, and that came from 25 defenders beaten to 31. So, it's a round about 1 in 6 for Sarries, and 1 in almost 8 for Toulouse. So not brilliant conversion rates for either team, but the defences for the most part were pretty decent. Offloads then 5 to 13, but it was one of those ones where Toulouse, a lot of the offloads were just about avoiding the contact area because they wanted to deny Sarries opportunities at the poach rather than kind of offloading to put someone through a gap. Then passes 122 to 126, possession 53 to 47, and territory 48 to 52. So each team shading one of those 2 stats, and overall it was pretty even, and that's why the score was so close really. Onto defence then. Again, very even here. 142 to 144 tackles made. Sarries tackling at 76%, which we've seen a lot this weekend. A lot of teams at that level. We normally look again to be in those at least the 80s. Maybe the low 80s, and that's what Toulouse are at. 81 is kind of the pass mark. Saracens a little bit lower than that, but it didn't really cost them over the total game. Turnovers won that 11-6, and then you can see why Toulouse were going for those offloads, because they were conceding too many turnovers to Sarries when there was actually a ruck. Set piece then, 13 line-hits won from Sarries. That's 87%. So it's probably, I think that's 13 out of 15. I think. Yeah, it must be right. And then Toulouse 15 for 79%. So that must be what? Well, 15 out of 20 would be 75. So it must be 15 out of 19. Then we come on to the scrums. 11 scrums won for Sarries, 6 for Toulouse, both at 100% in the scrum. The scrum wasn't like a major weapon for either team, really. Then kicks from hand, 25 for Saracens, 17 for Toulouse, and kick meters, 510 for Sarries. So that's averaging 20 meters per kick, 460 for Toulouse. So they're more about closer, not quite, but closer to 30 meters per kick. So you see Toulouse kicking less often, and most of their kicks were longer, whereas Sarries were putting up more contestable kicks, but it was actually Toulouse who retained kicks. Like Sarries didn't retain a single kick in the game, and 4 retained by Toulouse. Then onto the breakdown. So breakdowns won 83-73, and then rucks lost 2 each, so 92% to 94%. And then maul totals 4 out of 4 mauls for Sarries for 100%, and 8 out of 9 for Toulouse for 89%. Then finally discipline, 12 penalties conceded for Sarries, so that's definitely a work on for them. You feel like, if Toulouse had have been in the mind to maybe take kicks up at goal, they might have been in the position towards the end of the game rather than looking for a try to win the game. It might have been even, and then might have been looking for a drop goal or to force a penalty. And then 9 penalties conceded by Toulouse. Keep it in single figures, and you can't really complain too much about that. Okay, so let's talk about each of the teams. We start with the home team, Saracens. So, this is a really good win for them because they're not going great in the Premiership at the moment. They're 6th place in the Prem, so that's actually, it's only 10 teams, so they're in the bottom half at the minute of that league, and kind of turn the clock back a little bit with this performance. Going against a European giant and grinding out that win at home, and they've got to be pleased, I think, with a lot of aspects of their play. They took most of the chances that they created, like the one with Lazowski, though, like blowing that try would be frustrating. Like that should have been a try, and had they lost the game, there would have been a bit of finger pointing, I think, in terms of not actually finishing that when it looked like it was easier to just dot the ball down to knock it on. But I think overall, you've got to look at it as a decent performance from Sarries. Like that, defense was there when they needed it to be at crucial times in that second half, where Toulouse were getting a bit of momentum, but they stuck to their processes, and they forced the errors from Toulouse. Very aggressive in defense. Sometimes against a team like Toulouse, who are very good at moving the ball and finding space, that aggressive defense can actually work against you, because they can beat your blitz, and they can either pick the way through you, or they can get outside of it, and then you're in trouble. But Sarries were really good on the defense, and Toulouse for the most part, weren't able to do that. Set piece overall, was decent without being spectacular, but I'd say that for both teams, I think. But again, I think for Sarries, it was more important for them, because they're at home, to win this game. And then now they've put themselves in the position that they go into the final round, in sort of a position where you're thinking, okay, well, now that you've got to that level, they can be looking at home advantage, probably, depending obviously on the next result, but potentially looking at home advantage in the knockout stages. And after that, then it's about trying to get the best position in terms of, can you, I think it's probably going to be Sale, right, that they're going to be dueling with, I think, for that home advantage. I think there's 1 point between them on the table. So can they outdo Sale's performance next weekend and get themselves a home draw, or are they actually going to be joining Toulouse on the away side of the draw as well? So I think big games in that pool now next week to kind of finish. But they've at least put themselves in the position where between themselves and Toulouse, they're certainly the more likely team to get a home draw out of it. So, but still, depending on how they go compared to other results, really is what they need to think about. Then Toulouse, you couldn't really say, you can't really look at the game and think that 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 they had more chances than Sarries, and that if they tighten up, been a little bit better with this or that they would have won the game. I think that for the most part, I think Saracens outplayed them and deserved the win. And Toulouse now, you go back to kind of half time, I think, in the game against Glasgow, 21-0 up, and they're cruising, and you're thinking it's typical Toulouse. They're going to go into the second half. They're going to win, get their bonus point try sometime in the third quarter of the game. And then it's just about what the margin is going to be. And then they come into this game probably sitting at the top of the table with 10 points and looking to extend that, but instead, they kind of implode in that second half. Glasgow, a brilliant comeback win there. And now they've had 2 defeats on the trot in the Champions Cup in the pool stage, which does not happen to Toulouse very often. And also, not only are they kind of going into the last round of fixtures, thinking that potentially, it's going to be an away draw for them. But there's also potential there, with the Sharks not out of it yet, that they could actually end up being eliminated. I don't think that's going to happen, but there is at least a mathematical possibility of that happening. And again, it's not something that you see too often, I think, from from Toulouse, that you normally expect that they've already qualified at this stage and the final round of games is just, jockeying for position. But next weekend, thinking about just this pool now, the Sharks are home to Clermont. Clermont haven't won a game, so you expect Sharks to win that and possibly with a bonus point as well. So they move up, I think, to 10 points at that stage. And then Toulouse at home to Sale, right? And with those two playing each other, it means for me, like it probably means that Glasgow are going to finish top of the pool, because Glasgow obviously playing at home against Saracens in the final game. They're the ones out at the top of the pool, and looking at that, Stade know if they win, they qualify for the knockout stages. And then, depending on how the other game goes, they could sneak in, I think as a home team, I think if they win with 5 points and Sale get nothing, then they'll leapfrog them. And if Glasgow beat Saracens, then and Saracens don't get anything out of the game, or Saracens I think can get one losing bonus point or wherever out of the game, and then they could qualify from there. But it's again kind of alien territory for them going into those knockout stages. But I think it's good for the competition that we're not seeing the kind of all of the usual suspects just breezing through the pool stages. The pool stages are becoming more competitive, and we need that. We need more teams to be competitive in the pool stages and then in the knockout stages. But this weekend now, this is our coverage is almost done for the weekend. Tomorrow, so Monday, I'm going to be doing a wrap up of the weekend's games, and from this weekend. So there was 12 games in this round of the pools for the Champions Cup, and we covered 8 of them on the channel. So I think that might be the most I've ever covered on the channel in one round of games. And there's actually a reason behind it, because I had the weekend off this weekend, and I'm not going to have the weekend off next weekend. So next weekend I might cover maybe like 3 games, because I'm thinking after work I can maybe cover 1 game each evening, and then we'll do a wrap up. So I won't be able to do as many next weekend, so I wanted to get as many as I could this weekend. And if you look at the fixtures, the most game, like all of these games covered, watched live. And if you look at the fixtures, because of games being played at the same time, the most that you could cover live were 8. So I'm happy I did that. It was a marathon of rugby, but and some of the games weren't the best, but there were some gems in there as well. So a brilliant weekend of rugby. I hope you enjoyed it. As I said, we'll have a wrap up of the round tomorrow, and then we'll go into the final round later on in the week with a preview, etc.